Welcome to the 2023-24 Reflections Workshop. The slideshow itself has a lot of information that you can read on your own, and it can be found on scpta.org/reflections. But I'm going to briefly go over each slide and give a little bit more information. So what is Reflections? It is a national PTA-sponsored program that encourages students to get creative based on a specific theme. And this year's theme is I Am Hopeful Because. The theme is selected through a national theme competition. It starts at the state level. Students submit their theme ideas through our Google form, which you can click on here. We select our top 5 submissions and send it to national. You can share that link with your families, post it on social media. I do want to note that some students may not be able to submit on their district issued devices, but we'll get more into that in a few. As usual, we are offering all categories and age divisions. I would like to point out that as far as we're concerned, students can enter as many times and as many categories as they wish. The same student can submit 2 dance submissions, 3 music compositions, 4 photographies. We do not limit to only 1 entry in 1 category. You can choose to limit, although I don't think it's beneficial to you to do that. The 3rd entry a student turns into you could be the one that wins national. So if you choose to only allow them to submit 1 thing, you're limiting the potential for your school to have some amazing entries. If a student qualifies for special artist division, they can enter either division. It's their choice as to which one they want to submit under. If they choose to submit in a traditional grade division, they have the same rules as everyone else and will be judged the same. They should not receive any assistance that's not allowed for other children in that grade division. If they do choose to enter special artist division, they can receive non-artistic accommodations from an adult. If they enter the special artist division and they place, they will be recognized as special artists. And that link at the bottom, you can click that. If you pull up the slideshow on the SCPTA website, you can click that later and view nationals rules for what qualifies special artist. It's also, I included that link in my example of a digital entry form in the future. You'll see that in a few slides. So don't forget to check scpta.org and pta.org for important information and forms. Below each link is a list of specific information that will help you on each website. So who can participate? All PTAs in South Carolina have the option of participating. You also have the option of accepting homeschooled students in your area. The plus side is it adds to the chance of your school being recognized and allows a child the opportunity to participate in a program they would not normally have the option to participate in. And finally, on this slide, students do not have to have a membership to participate. This is a very common misconception. You are able to run your program however you want, so you have the option of requiring a membership with an entry, but it is not a requirement of state or national. The first thing you need to do to start your program is register your PTA with National. If you click that link, it will bring up the National Reflections Registration SurveyMonkey. National has not yet sent me the list of units that have registered, but once they do, I can start confirming whether you have already done it or not. Next, you need to decide if you're using paper or digital entry forms. If you decide to do paper entry forms and collect physical entries, please note we do not accept physical entries at the state level. You will have to take photos and submit your school winners to state digitally. Digital entry forms are much easier to deal with when it comes to judging, but if you don't have any reflection volunteers that are tech savvy, you might choose to stick with paper version, or you can always try a combination of both if that's what works best for your school. You also need to choose a deadline that allows enough time for students to work on their entries and for you to get your entries judged in time to submit to district and state. If you choose to go with paper forms, this is a PDF, Word doc, and National's fillable PDF. It is page 3 of the student packet that can be found on our website. Page 1 and 2 include the rules and guidelines. If you use the student packet, make sure you update the first and third page. Even if you decide to go with digital, consider having a copy of this available for the occasional student who struggles with digital entries. If you go with digital, you'll want to go with a Google form, Microsoft form, or something similar that allows you to collect all of the information that's on the paper copies. Consider what's accessible on your district issued student devices. So if you're a Microsoft district, use a Microsoft form. If you are a Google district, use a Google form. So when you click on that link, it actually makes you a copy. You will be the owner of this form. So you'd make a copy of this, and you can use it as a template for making a Microsoft form. And just don't forget to include signatures for waivers. A digital signature does count. Have your form allow uploads, or you're going to have to use student email or upload to a Dropbox, and that gets a little tricky. So it's really beneficial if your form can accept uploads. When you look at my copy, you'll see that I included a copy of the guidelines and rules in the form itself. Make sure that if you use this copy, you're going to edit all the bold sections. Anything that's font is in bold, and the title. If you scroll down to section 2, you'll see that I used the student's name as the signature. So they only have to type their name once. And scrolling down to section 3, for you, here is that you can click here for more information on special divisions. So parents themselves can see that information if they click there. Consider removing any divisions that are not relevant to your school. And then scrolling down to section 4, this you really have to make sure you edit. Don't forget to edit all the bold fonts, and then you're going to change it from a short answer to a file upload. Click continue. And then once you've done that, you can change, like music, for example. Students can put the sheet music and the music file. So I'd want to allow for more than one file uploaded. The same for visual arts. They might put 3 photos of a 3D design. So I change it to allow 5. And then I also change the file size to allow for a larger, nobody ever submits a 1 gig file, but I just change it anyway. And then it's going to prompt you that 1 gig exceeds the total size limit. So you're going to click change that and scroll down to here and up it. Again, nobody is going to upload a whole terabyte worth of entries. I really, if any of you ever run into that, please let me know, because that's amazing. So you will not need that, but I still just up it to that anyway. Just make sure that you do all of these settings and edit all of that bold stuff. Oh, and on that page, you also have a copy of the rules and guidelines separate that don't have the student. If you click that, it's just the same thing as the student packet without the paper entry form. So you'd have a copy of the rules and guidelines. Okay, so tips for going digital. One of the biggest issues that some units ran into was districts blocking the reflections entry forms from student devices. If you can enlist a staff member to create your Google or Microsoft forms, then students would be able to complete the form on their district issued devices in school. That staff member can share the folder that the entries get uploaded. They can share that with you, and then you'd still see the results of everybody's entry forms and uploads, but the students have the access. If you don't have a staff member that you can ask, then just don't forget to announce that students will have to complete the entry form on their phone or personal device at home. And make sure you test out the form before you publicly share it. Preferably test it on a student device just to see if it works or not. And check that your settings allow for uploads like I described before. And then this page is really self-explanatory. It has links that could be useful. The only tip I want to highlight on this slide is make sure you work with your school and district and outgoing PTA. Just find out what was successful last year, what worked in the past. When you are ready to collect entries, make sure you're familiar with those program rules and guidelines for each category. Make sure you flag incomplete entry forms and entries that don't follow the guidelines. For example, if someone submits a photo collage as a photography entry, but it's actually visual arts, you want to make sure you notify the student that you're changing the category type to fit the appropriate rules and you're sending it to the correct category judge. And then remember to allow yourself a little bit of time before sending the entries to judges so that you have time to review those mistakes. Start recruiting your judges early. Judges should have some expertise in the category that they're judging. They shouldn't have any connection to students. It should not be parents judging the work of their own students. If you use teachers as judges from another school, it's not recommended that you use a feeder school because of potential bias, or teachers from your own school. Some schools use it. It's not a requirement that you don't use teachers, but it's just not recommended. Preferably, you're not going to have to use teachers as judges. Try and contact photography studios, private art and music teachers, local artists. Make sure you give them specific deadlines and reminders. So you're going to want to provide those judges with instructions and a rubric that's available when you click that link. Everything that's that bright blue, that's all links that you can click with forms or helpful tips or anything like that. So when you go through the slideshow on your own, just click on those for all of this information I'm talking about. You're allowed to give them gifts and incentives. Hopefully you can find them without that though. Inform them of the theme, and although it's in the rubric, remind them interpretation of theme is 40%, while creativity and technique are each only worth 30% each. Give them the deadline and let them know that they can have colleagues and friends help them with the same expectations, that they have expertise in their field that they're judging. If you use physical entries, make sure that you have an entry form attached to the entry. You don't want any mix-ups. Even with physical entries, you're still going to have digital entries. Music, dance, and film are most likely going to be handed to you on flash drives. You can either put them in individual Ziploc bags attached to entry forms, or combined all entries onto one flash drive and just properly title them so that judges know which ones are which. It is easier for the judges if you combine everything onto one flash drive, but make sure that you copy and paste. Do not click cut or move, because you want to keep the original entry on the original flash drive, just so that you always have that as a backup. When you are ready to judge digitally, you'll share your Google folder or Microsoft folder with individual judges. Again, go through the files and make sure that everything is titled properly so the judges know which ones they are reviewing. For example, when I send to my judges, I would move all of the primary dance entries into a primary folder, and I include a copy of the original spreadsheet. I edit that spreadsheet to remove anything that's not a primary dance entry. And then I change the settings of the folder to anyone with a link can view. And then I share that link with my judge. And I just keep repeating until each category has been sent to all judges. Once your judges are finished, it'll be time to submit the first place winners only. From each category and each division, you'll have your first place winners. Submit that into our Google form. This form will be shared when we get closer to the deadline, probably around January 1st. That's when I sent it last year. Although that form is going to go to the entire board, everyone always receives all of my emails. Only one person needs to fill it out. Do not share that link with your families, because that particular form is just for local units to submit their first place winners to state. And also, if you're in District 1 or District 23, then my state form is going to act as your district form also. So when you submit to me, you're also submitting to district, and I will share it with your district reflections share. No ties are accepted. If you have a tie, the student with a higher score for interpretation of theme is the one that will advance. I also want to mention that work will only be accepted if one student is on the entry form. Collaborations are not allowed. So it would be disqualified at a state level. This typically happens with dance category. They can have multiple dancers in the video, but only one person can be responsible for the choreography. Really quickly, I want to go over district reflections. Ideally, we would want each unit to submit to their district, and then from there, district moves on to state moves on to national, just like a sporting bracket. But since not all of our districts have a reflections program, it would be unfair to exclude those districts from our state level program. So rather than advancing from district, local units are advancing their first place winners directly to state. For local units in District 1 and 23, like I mentioned, I'm going to share that with your district reflections chair. And essentially, you're entering two different competitions. So therefore, it's possible that a student can place at district, but not state, and vice versa. As I mentioned, that's just specific to District 1 and 23. If there's any other districts that want to do the same, I'd gladly offer that same setup. So just make sure you reach out to your district leader to confirm how your program is being operated at your district level. On this slide, you see an example of that state form that I'm talking about that will come out on January 1st-ish. You'll complete the information and then move on to each page. If you don't have an entry for a specific category, you just scroll down to the bottom, click next, and just complete it once per division. So for example, on an elementary level, they could end up filling this out 3 times, once for primary, once for intermediate, and a 3rd time for special division. When you upload an entry, you're going to rename that entry file to the following code: category code dot division code dot district number dot school dot student last name dot first initial. Dance is D, film is F, and so on. Make sure you use your school name and not initials. For example, I know that this is Somerville High School because and not Somerville Elementary because it has an H as the division code. If they had put in the initials SHS, I could have confused it with Southside High from another one of our PTAs. They're not in D23, but it would be very difficult for me to try and figure out who's who. So it's just much easier if you put the full name of the school. I just need like Somerville. They didn't need to write Somerville High School PTSA. I just need a basic understanding of who is who. The deadline to submit is January 31st at 11:59 p.m. So make sure all local units submit your first place winner to our state Google form by then. Again, no ties are accepted, and the link will likely be sent out January 1st. Although we accept only the first place winners, we celebrate several winners from each category and division. National and state do not use the terms first place, second place. For national, their first place is Outstanding Award. For us, our first place is acknowledged as the Award of Excellence. We will have 1 Award of Excellence winner per category and division. These will be advanced to national. Our 2nd through 4th place winners are acknowledged as Award of Merit winners, and they are not announced in any particular order. You can find generic printable certificates available on the national site. I create our certificates on Canva. Feel free to acknowledge your winners however you want. Some schools have big ceremonies, others just make an announcement on a loudspeaker. Some acknowledge 1st through 3rd, while others have top 4. So each school is allowed to run their own program their own way. New this year, I have provided a fillable announcement form that you can edit for the school and district level. These are completely optional. You can use it as a template or don't even use it at all. If you decide to use it, just make sure you edit the bright red sections. I'll click on that so you can see. Again, you'd be making your own copy. You'd be the owner of this document. So just change anything that's bright red and then update all of this information below with your names. If you want to include the title, however you want to do it. If when you're filling it out, something isn't lining up right, you can feel free to add me as an editor and I can try to help you clean it up and make it look right. Because when it's this, the 3 columns, things start getting out of whack and everything. So I can help if you need it. Keep in mind, this is a Google Doc, so you can save it as a PDF or a Word doc. But if you want it to look like an image so that you can share it on social media, you might want to do a screen grab in Microsoft Edge. If you want me to show you how to do that after, I can show you after I'm done with the slideshow. Just let me know. This slide has some of the guidelines that are relevant to all categories, and it's worth reviewing on your own time. These next few slides cover how to ID what category entries belong in. So, for example, on the left is a collage of many photographs that have been printed and glued to a flat surface, a poster board, or a large piece of paper. This is considered a visual arts. On the right, the image was edited in photo editing software. So it's a bunch of pictures that were taken with a camera and added into photo editing software and then was printed as one photograph that's submitted under photography. Again, on the right, this image was photographed that it's a photography photo that's been edited in software. The image on the left is entirely made with software, so it's a computer generated image. It's considered visual arts. So I know this was a lot of information. So to summarize, just make sure you register at a national level with the link that was provided, determine how you want to run your program, promote repeatedly on several platforms, look for your judges and start looking early. Submit your first place winners to state by January 31st at 11:59 p.m. Reach out to your district to make sure you're following district guidelines, and you can always reach out to me or your district reflections chair if you need any help. Thank you so much for attending the Reflections workshop. And if you have no further questions, you can hop off at any time, but I'm going to stay on and answer any questions until everyone is done. So we'll download as a PDF. I downloaded as a PDF, so I'm going to my downloads. That I know you can't see because that's on my other screen. So now I opened, it went to my downloads and I just clicked the PDF. So this, I'm looking at it on Microsoft Edge. I just right click and click web capture. It goes gray, and then I select anything that I want to web capture, and then I click copy. Then I open Paint. Let me see. And then in here, I paste it. And so now I have a picture of the PDF that I just screen grabbed from Microsoft Edge. And then I just save it as a JPEG or PNG. And so now I'd be able to share that document on Facebook because Facebook doesn't let you put files. So that's how I do images of any kind of document, PDF, Word doc. I just open it in Microsoft Edge and I utilize that. I'll show you one more time. So right click, web capture, and then select whatever it is that you want to highlight. How many judges would I suggest per category? I just use the one, just finding one person to say, yes, I'll do it. And I just let them know right when I'm asking them originally, like if you have colleagues that you want to help out, you can ask whoever you want. No, there's not an age requirement for judges. There really isn't any requirements at all. Everything that I had said was really just recommendations. In the past at a school level, I had an 18-year-old who was, I mean, she was given amazing amounts of scholarships for her, and she danced ballet professionally already. Like she was amazing at 18, and I had her judge. So no, there are no age requirements for judging. Just really that they are familiar with technique and yep, you're welcome.